Congress Act. It is quite a night of news because America is 2 days away from a government shutdown unless Congress acts soon. That means millions of government workers and military members could be without a paycheck days before the holidays. And it's quite a reversal since where we started just this morning. The House of Representatives appeared to be on the verge of approving a last-minute bipartisan plan. But tonight, it is imploding as we seem to be witnessing the growing influence of the world's richest man. Unelected tech billionaire Elon Musk spent the day repeatedly and publicly calling on Republicans to vote no and called for those who support the plan to be voted out of office. Then President-elect Donald Trump weighed in, also urging a no vote. And then within hours, Musk declared the deal dead.
You did it! Just like November 5th, once again, you rose up and you defeated the powers that be. You crushed the swamp. We're going to see what really happened yesterday in the humiliating defeat of that pork-filled omnibus spending bill and why it signals a new era that will forever change politics going forward. You are not going to want to miss this. Hey, gang. Yesterday, congressional leaders released their 1,500-page monstrosity of a spending bill, a so-called continuing resolution, a CR, that purports to fund the government through March of 2025. The so-called CR was nothing more than a collection of waste, with your tax dollars going towards giving pay raises for every member of Congress, money for American music tourism, consumer safety standards for certain types of batteries, a one-year extension of the State Department's Global Engagement Center that's been guilty of censoring speech online, and the bill even went so far as to change the language used for criminal offenders to, I kid you not, justice-involved individuals. Moreover, it would have blocked an investigation of Liz Cheney and the J6 committee, and it would have hamstrung DOJ from instituting a number of spending cuts. It was literally an affront to everything we voted for on November 5th. But needless to say, within hours of news breaking on that bill, the swamp's world was literally invaded by concerned citizens from all across the nation, led by the one and only Elon Musk. By one count, Elon had sent out to his tens of millions of followers about a dozen tweets in 10 minutes. Dozens of tweets within 30 minutes of the news breaking surrounding this pork-riddled omnibus bill. And so, literally within minutes of this news breaking out, the phone lines of every single Republican member of Congress were jammed. Their phones were ringing off the hook. Their email accounts were flooded. The talk radio airwaves, the conservative media sphere were absolutely livid. And the big one, primary challengers were already being vetted and recruited for any Republican that even came close to signing this monstrosity. Again, this happened all within minutes after news broke on this ridiculous omnibus bill. There has never been a time, ever, in our history where the swamp rats in D.C. found themselves under such immediate scrutiny, and they panicked. Speaker Johnson did his best to sell this monstrosity, in other words, to lie, like swamp creatures do all the time. But none of the tens of millions of citizens responders who were flooding the phone lines of these Republican sellouts were buying. None of them. And they caved. They caved within just a couple hours after news of this monstrosity broke. The bill is now officially dead. Now, there's a lot of commentary that's come out over the last 12 years or so that's pointing out the obvious. The Republicans won, and won big, on November 5th. We won a historic landslide. We handed the Republicans the single biggest win in 2 generations. The Democrats are shell-shocked. The Democrats are, they're leaderless. They are as politically vulnerable as they have ever been. And yet, how did the Republicans respond?
They responded by betraying their own voters. So now the assumption to that setup that we won and Democrats lost, the assumption there is key. The assumption is that we're actually dealing with two distinct parties. When in point of fact, that monstrosity of a bill proved that we actually only have one party, a uniparty, an establishment duopoly that's ultimately answerable not to the people, not to their voters, but to donors and lobbyists. That's what these 24 hours have proven. These last 24 hours have proven that DC is the swamp of a uniparty duopoly. But these last 24 hours have also proven something else. And that is the extraordinary power that now belongs in the hands of the people in many ways unlike ever before. Now, I think Laura Ingraham actually had a great observation. She said, quote, again, it isn't so much that Congress fears Trump. They really just fear their own voters. They know they are doing things that their voters don't want. But for years, they've been able to hide that fact. But now that is over. And to me, that is what is so key to what happened yesterday. What changed is obviously not the swamp. The swamp rats, what they did yesterday is what they always do. Attempt to pass laws that increase their own power and affluence. What changed, and changed so dramatically, is the world around them. You see, in acquiring Twitter, Elon Musk brought to the fore the significance of a new and rising phenomenon known as techno-populism. It's a key theme on this channel. We talk about this all the time because it's radically changing the world as we know it. Techno-populism refers to the various ways in which the new technologies that are emerging, particularly the internet, are doing two things simultaneously. They're emancipating and mobilizing. Technology is emancipating and it's mobilizing. So on the one hand, it's emancipating. A key dynamic inherent in technopopulism is its independence dynamic, in that technological advances are empowering more and more citizens to take into their own hands what they used to rely on old modern industrial structures and bureaucracies to do for them. So we often talk on this channel about how the internet has given rise to a whole new media that's fast replacing the legacy media, right? That Elon loves saying that you are the media now, right? ABC News, NBC, New York Times, they're not the media, right? They're the fringe. You're the mainstream media. And that's because the internet has radically democratized information. It's decentralized information away from the historic monopolization of that information by legacy media outlets. And what the internet has done is it's dispersed that information in such a way that by virtue of our shared hyperconnectivity, we now all have the same immediate access to information as anyone at CNN or the New York Times does. So in effect, we don't need these old legacy media institutions anymore. Or take Bitcoin or crypto in general, right? The blockchain technology that they're based on has effectively emancipated money from the state, right? So that separation means that we're no longer dependent on the government for a viable and flourishing currency. So this is technopopulism. Technopopulism, or technology, is liberating more and more populations from the old, outdated, modernist industrial structures and bureaucracies we used to rely on, either for information or for currency. But as the adults in DC found out big time, there's a second interrelated dynamic. And that's how technopopulism is able to mobilize the masses at a rapidity and speed we've simply never seen before. Make no mistake, congressmen were stunned They were absolutely overwhelmed by how much and how fast the backlash against that omnibus bill was. Again, all Elon had to do was fire out a bunch of tweets in a matter of 10 minutes. That's it. Tens of millions were galvanized. Tens of millions in literally 10 minutes. This is the new age of technopopulism. In fact, Elon is now calling for a law to be passed that will require all bills to be uploaded online at least 1 week in advance of their vote so that the people can read it for themselves and render their verdict. This is the power of techno-populism. And yesterday we saw it officially take over DC. It's changing the world, and make no mistake, it is now, as we speak, changing DC. You won in November. You won yesterday.
Rest assured, with this new age dawning, the winning is just beginning.